The last technique we're going to learn is stencil relief or paper resist. There's a lot of different things we can call this technique, but essentially we're going to put paper in the way of the slip. And what you're going to need is some kind of paper. It can be a design like this that you cut out, or it can just be paper cutouts like a heart, something simple, or even just scraps of paper. You're going to need scissors or a knife to cut your design out, depending on what it is. Okay, so I've got a couple different tiles here. So this one, I've already done some sgraffito on, and it has yellow slip on it. This one has blue slip, and this one doesn't have any slip. So I just want to show you how you can do the paper resist or stencil technique in a variety of ways. So I have some very elaborate things that I just took several minutes to cut out. That is a coronavirus, and here is a little N95 mask. Those took a long time to cut out, so I hope they look cool, but they may not, so you might want to play with different techniques. I've also just got some scrap paper here. Sorry, test tile. And I am going to cut a couple of hearts out. And this will be one of my stencils, and these positive space hearts will also be stencils. So I'm going to use all of these. And then I'm also just going to cut out like an interesting shape. It's like from Mario Brothers or something. Actually, you know what? Let's give it some texture. All right. So let's go ahead and put this one on to our regular one. This is where my sponge is going to come in handy to help us adhere the paper to the tile. I'm going to just very gently moisten it. And again, we don't want to get this sopping wet because we do want it to stay leather hard. But basically just wet enough that I'm getting the paper to adhere. And you'll see as I pull these off, it doesn't always work perfectly. Nothing in ceramics does, but I've got a pretty good seal. I can use my rib to just gently push any air out, or my finger. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and add some slip, and we're gonna do it just like we did before. One direction, right over our paper. And then we're going to go the other direction. And then the third direction. I can see, maybe I can see a little bit of the clay coming through. If it does dry and you notice that, you can just do another coat. Because we did moisten it, there's just a little bit of water on the surface, no big deal. On this tile, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with those, with just the smallest amount of moisture. Really shooting for the smallest amount of moisture. Okay, and I'm also going to put my coronavirus. Sorry if anyone feels like this is not appropriate. I'm just trying to document the moment in history that we're in. Not really trying to be funny. So when you have a lot of little details like this, it usually, in my opinion, looks pretty cool. You can see there's a good amount of details in this one, but sometimes if they're a little too small, which this might be, it just doesn't really come across, and that's no big deal. If that's the case, you can just try a different design. All right, so I'm gonna let this just actually dry up just a tiny bit. I don't want it to dry so much that these come off, but I know that if I put a different color slip on, things might get a little muddy. Okay, so I'm going to put my slip on now. This would be one of those situations where if you see muddiness happen, just step away and come back to it. So I'm going to do that right now, actually. All right, I'm going to add a little bit more to this. And I kind of like the way these two little blobs look. Maybe I'll add even another blob that doesn't have a thing. So I just did these two stripes, and as you can see, I can see the other color coming through. If you like that or it enhances your design, that's fine. If you don't like it, you can just add another coat. And again, if just like just now, it's a little too wet to do that, you just wait a few minutes and then add your second or third coat to get the coverage that you want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these hearts on to this tile. Okay. And I'm going to do a stripe with my blue slip. Okay, I let this dry up just a bit. I'm going to go back in and do my second and third coats. Because I'm doing a stripe on this one, my coats are a little bit weird, but that's fine. For the final stencil, which is missing the negative space, I'm going to put it onto this one. And I did the same thing, I just moistened the tile. I'm going to moisten the paper. Where that little crease is, I'm going to make sure it's nice and tacked down. And then I'm going to add a different color slip. Go ahead and use the black slip over these hearts. And 3 coats. Okay, it's time for the big reveal. This is where our needle tool comes in handy. I'm going to just find a little spot to pick up the paper and pull the paper off. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. You can see there's just like a couple little spots where just a little bit of slip came through. That doesn't really bother me, but just so you know that just needed to be tacked down a little bit tighter. But as you can see, I got this really cute little shape here. Let's move on to the hearts. These, oops, I had a bigger part come up. Again, no big deal, but you can see I got some cute little hearts. They'll be black when it's fired. Let's check out these hearts. Again, I'm going to use my needle tool to gently pick up the paper. Let's pick up the other heart. Try not to poke it, but if you do, it's not the end of the world. Okay, oh, these came out pretty good. So these have the blue stripes, they have the sgraffito squares. This will be an interesting tile once it's fired. And last but not least, let's pick up these guys and see how they came out. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed. I don't know if you can really tell that's a mask, but that's cool. Let's get this one up. That came out on the cute side. Definitely Not perfect. There's a lot of detail in that one, but pretty cute. So as you can see, this sort of mimics the idea of being like a cup or something that you would do decoration on. All right, so those are our paper relief or stencil with slip. As you can see, this is just on top of the plain clay. This is with a color underneath, and then this, and this is a good example of your combination test tiles that you'll need to make with your extra test tiles. Same here, this is one color on top of another, and then of course this is just painting on slip, which is something that you probably have to practice with your pinch pots, and you can totally use that in any decorative situation. With this mask and coronavirus, I went in with my needle tool and added a little bit of detail.